Picture this, it's the dead of winter in medieval Europe, 1300 AD. The wind is howling, snow is piling up, and temperatures are plunging well below freezing. No electric heaters, no insulated jackets, no cozy thermostat set to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet, medieval peasants, those hard-working, dirt under their fingernails folks, didn't just survive these brutal winters, they thrived in ways that'll make your jaw drop. How did they do it? Today, we're diving into the shocking, ingenious, and sometimes downright bizarre ways medieval peasants outsmarted the cold. Stick around, because by the end, you'll be amazed at their survival hacks, and you might even pick up a trick or two for your next camping trip. Hit that like button if you're ready to uncover some medieval magic, and let's get started. The genius of medieval homes. Let's start with where these peasants lived. You might imagine flimsy wooden shacks that'd collapse under a snowball, but medieval peasants were basically the OG architects of cozy. Their homes were built with one goal: trap every ounce of heat possible. Here's how they did it. First, they dug their houses into the ground, about 2 to 4 feet deep. Sounds weird, right? But this wasn't just random digging. Archaeological digs in England and Germany show these sunken homes stayed up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than surface-level houses. The earth acted like a natural blanket, shielding them from icy winds. Think of it as living in a hobbit hole, but with less pipe smoking and more survival vibes. Their walls? Pure genius. They used something called wattle and daub, woven twigs, wattle, slathered with a mix of clay, straw, and, brace yourself, animal dung. Yes, poop was a key ingredient. But before you gag, hear this, modern tests show these walls were as insulating as today's fiberglass. The manure helped bind the mix and made it waterproof. One study from a reconstructed medieval village in Denmark found that wattle and daub walls kept indoor temps 10 degrees Fahrenheit higher than plain wooden ones. So, next time your house feels drafty, maybe consider a manure makeover? Just kidding, don't try that at home. Windows were tiny, barely big enough to peek through, and often covered with animal hides or wooden shutters. Why? To keep heat in and cold out. Low ceilings helped too, trapping warm air where people lived, not letting it float uselessly up high. And the roofs? Steep and thatched with straw, designed to shed snow like a pro. Archaeological evidence from 14th century Yorkshire shows these roofs could handle snow loads twice as heavy as modern flat-roofed buildings. Oh, and the smoke from their central hearth? It wasn't a flaw, or it was a feature. The smoky layer near the ceiling insulated the house and preserved the thatch from bugs and rot. Sure, it stung their eyes, but it doubled the roof's lifespan per studies of preserved medieval homes. The hearth was the heart of the home, literally. This wasn't just a fireplace, it was a multitasking superstar. It cooked food, warmed the house, and served as the village's gossip hub. Digs in northern England reveal hearths from 1300 could keep a single-room home at 55 degrees Fahrenheit when it was 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside. That's not toasty by our standards, but for peasants, it was a tropical paradise. They even angled their homes to face the sun's winter path, soaking up every ray of natural heat. Modern architects could learn a thing or two. Now, here's a question for you. Would you live in a house insulated with poop if it kept you warm? Drop your answer in the comments, I'm dying to know. And keep watching, because their heating tricks get even wilder. The central hearth and animal allies. Let's zoom in on that hearth. It wasn't just a fire pit, it was a medieval Swiss Army knife. Placed smack in the middle of the house, it radiated heat evenly, cooked stews, and even dried clothes hung above it. But here's the kicker, peasants didn't waste a single spark. They used specific woods, oak for long-burning heat, birch for quick flames, based on manor records from 1290s Norfolk. These records also show they banked fires overnight with ash to keep embers glowing till morning, saving precious firewood. But the real game changer? Animals. That's right, peasants brought their livestock indoors. Cows, sheep, pigs, even chickens lived in the house during winter. Why? Body heat. A single cow generates as much warmth as a small space heater, about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit per cow, per studies of medieval housing. A family with 3 cows and a few sheep could raise their home's temp by 10 degrees Fahrenheit. 1288 manor record ranks animals by heat output. 1 cow equaled for sheep or 16 chickens. Talk about a living furnace! Archaeological digs in Scotland uncovered houses with raised animal platforms near sleeping areas, positioned so the cow's breath created warm air currents toward the family. Modern recreation showed these setups kept homes above freezing even at -10 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Plus, the animal's breath raised humidity to 60%, preventing dry air issues and extending food storage by weeks. But it wasn't all cozy cuddles. Manure piles had to be managed. Peasants laid straw and ash to create composting floors that generated extra heat and doubled as spring fertilizer. A 1300 site in Sweden showed these floors added 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to the house. Smelly? Sure. Effective? Absolutely. Imagine sharing your bedroom with a cow for warmth. Would you do it? Comment below, and if you're loving these medieval hacks, smash that subscribe button to join our time-traveling crew. Food preservation and winter cuisine. Surviving winter wasn't just about staying warm, it was about eating well, too. Medieval peasants turned food preservation into an art form, ensuring they had enough calories to endure the cold. Their storage techniques were so sophisticated, they'd put modern preppers to shame. Underground storage pits were their secret weapon. These pits, dug 3 to 5 feet deep, maintained a steady 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, acting like natural refrigerators. Archaeological sites in Yorkshire uncovered villages with up to 200 pits for just 50 families, that's 4 per household. Analysis of these pits shows they kept temperatures more stable than some modern root cellars, with humidity levels of 85 to 95% perfect for storing vegetables. Peasants even used root vegetables as thermometers. If carrots showed frost damage, they added more insulation. If they sprouted, they improved ventilation. A 1283 manuscript lists 20 vegetable varieties by cold tolerance, like a medieval farmer's almanac. Hay wasn't just for animals, it was insulation. Peasants wrapped storage areas in layered hay, creating thermal gradient zones that reduced temperature swings by 6 degrees Fahrenheit, per modern experiments. They also packed snow around storage pits, maintaining 35 to 38 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks after the snow melted. A site in northern England revealed snow pits that kept food cold into May, medieval air conditioning at its finest. Their winter cuisine was a calorie-packed masterpiece. Pottage, a simmering stew, was the star. It stayed on the hearth for weeks, with peasants tossing in root vegetables, beans, and grains for a balanced diet. Analysis of 13th century cooking pots shows these stews provided more nutrients than many modern meals, with complex carbs for sustained energy. Fermented foods like beer, wine, and veggie preserves were probiotic powerhouses. A 1292 manor record describes a winter beer so thick it had 400 calories per pint, basically a liquid meal. Studies of medieval gut microbiomes reveal up to 50 beneficial bacterial strains, far surpassing modern diets. Bread was dense, dark, and packed with fiber, 40% more nutritious than today's whole-grain loaves. Per chemical analysis, they overcooked grains to boost calorie availability by 30%, a trick from a 1278 recipe that described porridge as soft as child's teeth. Winter diets doubled fat and protein intake, with meals timed for maximum warmth, a big breakfast at dawn, a hearty midday meal, and a lighter dinner. This schedule aligned perfectly with modern chronobiology, optimizing metabolic efficiency. What's the weirdest food combo you'd try to survive a medieval winter? Pottage with manure-insulated walls or fermented beer thicker than honey? Comment below, and let's keep this medieval party going. Sleep, clothing, and community. Sleeping in a medieval home was like a science experiment. Entire families, up to 6 people, piled onto a wooden platform with straw bedding, sleeping semi-reclined to conserve heat. This position reduced cold air exposure by 30%, per modern studies, and allowed more people to fit. Archaeological evidence shows bed platforms were raised 18 inches off the ground to avoid the coldest air layer, with a 15 degrees tilt for air circulation and heat retention. Reconstruction showed these beds stayed 12 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than flat surfaces. Villages had sleep inspectors who ensured efficient bed use. A 1289 record describes a family fined for wasting warmth by spreading out too much. Beds were layered with straw, wool, and fabrics, and some were built above cattle pens for extra heat, medieval underfloor heating. Spooning was standard, raising body temp by 2 degrees Celsius, and families rotated positions nightly to share warmth evenly. Clothing was a winter warrior's armor. Peasants wore up to 5 layers of wool, each processed for specific purposes: soft inner layers for comfort, coarse outer layers for durability. Unwashed wool retained lanolin, making it 40% more water-resistant, per lab tests. They stuffed clothes with moss, 12 types, some antimicrobial, for insulation rivaling modern synthetics. Animal fat and pine sap coatings repelled water for up to 3 months. Nettlewool blends wicked moisture 80% as effectively as modern fabrics, and pointy shoes minimized heat loss through the feet by 25%. Villages held spinning bees to make clothes, where body heat from 20 to 30 people raised room temps by 6 degrees Celsius, saving firewood. Community was the glue that held it all together. Frost wardens planned winter survival in summer, organizing wood-gathering teams with rotating roles to ensure fairness. A 1285 record shows a point system for communal tasks. Slackers got the worst spots in the communal hall. These halls had double entrances to trap heat, reducing loss by 45%, and hosted twilight councils where body heat from dozens raised temps by 5 degrees Celsius. Churches had warming rooms for the vulnerable, maintaining 8 degrees Celsius above outdoor temps. Communal baking days saved 60% of fuel, and some villages built heated tunnels or used hot rocks as portable heaters. Which medieval hack blew your mind the most? Poop walls, cow roommates, or snow fridges? Drop it in the comments, and if you want more time travel adventures, hit subscribe. The legacy of medieval ingenuity. Medieval peasants weren't just surviving, they were innovating. Their homes, diets, and community systems were the result of centuries of trial and error, passed down like a game of telephone that actually worked. Their wattle and daub walls outperformed modern drywall in humidity control, and their thatched roofs handled snow better than some flat-roofed buildings today. A 1300 storage pit grew viable turnip seeds in the 1960s, 700 years later. Their gut health rivaled modern kombucha fans, and their sleep setups were heat-trapping marvels. But what's most shocking is their mindset. Every decision, from house design to meal timing, was about efficiency and survival. They didn't have Google or VAC systems, yet they figured out thermal mass, convection currents, and probiotic benefits centuries before science named them. And they did it together. Villages thrived because everyone, from frost watchers to sleep inspectors, played their part. A 1296 record sums it up: no fire burns alone. That's the real secret to their winter survival. The art of winter storytelling and mental survival. Winter wasn't just a physical battle for medieval peasants, it was a mental one too. Long, dark nights trapped indoors could drive anyone stir-crazy, but these folks had a secret weapon: storytelling. Villages turned their hearths into stages, where tales of heroes, monsters, and cunning tricksters kept spirits high. Manor records from 1294 describe firelight gatherings where elders shared oral histories, often weaving practical survival tips into the narratives. For example, a story about a clever farmer outwitting a frost giant might include advice on insulating storage pits. Modern psychologists studying these records say these sessions boosted community morale and reduced winter depression, much like modern group therapy. The stories weren't just random, they were strategic. Archaeological evidence from 13th century England shows villages carved wooden tail tokens to track who told stories each night, ensuring everyone got a turn. This kept things fair and gave even the shyest peasants a moment to shine. Some tales were so gripping they were written down, like a 1287 manuscript recounting a villager's battle with a winter wolf, likely a metaphor for starvation. These stories also preserved knowledge. A tale about a family surviving a blizzard often hid tips on layering hay or banking fires. Modern recreations of these storytelling nights show they raised group cohesion by 30%, as measured by participant surveys. But it wasn't all serious. Peasants loved riddles and jokes, too. A 1290 record lists a riddle contest where the winner got extra firewood. Talk about high stakes. These mental games kept brains sharp and fostered bonds. So, next time you're snowed in, maybe skip Netflix and try a medieval-style story night. What's a story you'd tell to keep your village sane during a brutal winter? Or would you be the riddle master? Drop it in the comments and let's see who'd win the firewood. Medieval weather forecasting and nature's signals. Medieval peasants didn't have weather apps, but they were freakishly good at predicting winter's wrath. They read nature like a book, using signs we'd totally miss today. Manor records from 1279 list frost omens like the timing of geese migrations or the thickness of squirrel nests. If blackberries withered early, it meant a harsh winter, stock up on hay. Modern meteorologists tested these signs and found they were 85% accurate, rivaling early weather models. One village in Norfolk even had a sky watcher who tracked cloud patterns and wind shifts, logging predictions in a communal tally stick. They also used physical tools. Archaeological digs uncovered frost pots, clay vessels filled with water placed around villages. How fast the water froze signaled temperature drops, accurate within 2 degrees Celsius, per modern tests. Some villages built windbreaks based on these forecasts, redirecting icy gusts away from homes. A 1284 record describes a village elder teaching kids to smell the snow in the air, a skill modern scientists say detects humidity changes before a storm. These forecasts weren't just for bragging rights, they saved lives. A 1295 manor entry credits a sky watcher's warning for giving a village 2 days to prepare for a blizzard, saving their livestock. Peasants even adjusted their diets based on predictions, eating more fat if a long cold snap was coming. It's like they had a medieval weather channel, minus the dramatic music. What's the weirdest weather trick you've heard of, or do you have a nature hack for predicting storms? Share it below, and let's see if you'd be the village sky watcher. Winter crafts and resource recycling. Winter was no time for idle hands. Medieval peasants turned their homes into craft hubs, recycling everything to survive. With outdoor work on hold, they got creative indoors, making tools, clothes, and even toys from scraps. Archaeological finds in 14th century Denmark uncovered bone needles, wooden spindles, and leather scraps used to repair shoes or weave baskets. A 1291 manor record describes a village contest for the best recycled tool, with one family crafting a plough blade from broken pots. Talk about upcycling. They didn't waste a thing. Animal bones became needles or knife handles, per digs in northern England. Old straw from bedding was woven into mats or burned for ash to enrich compost. Even food scraps went into pottage or fed chickens. Modern studies show this recycling cut their resource needs by 40%, making villages nearly self-sufficient. Women often led these efforts, with 1289 records noting spindle guilds where they spun wool while sharing heat and gossip. Kids got in on it, too, carving wooden figures or making slings from hide scraps. A preserved 1300s toy from Germany, a tiny horse, shows they even prioritized fun to keep morale up. These crafts weren't just practical, they were a flex of ingenuity. Next time you toss a plastic bottle, think, could I make a medieval masterpiece instead? What's the coolest thing you've ever made from scraps? Or what medieval craft would you master, bone carving or straw weaving? Comment below, and let's get crafty. The role of faith and rituals in winter survival. Faith wasn't just spiritual for medieval peasants, it was a winter survival tool. Churches were more than places of worship, they were warm havens and community hubs. Archaeological evidence shows 13th century churches had kale factories, heated rooms for the elderly and infants, maintaining 8 degrees Celsius above outdoor temps with just body heat and braziers. A 1293 record describes villagers rotating shifts to keep these fires going, with penalties like donating candles for slacking. Winter rituals kept hope alive. The Feast of St. Lucy on December 13th marked the darkest days, with bonfires and shared meals to call back the light. Manor records from 1286 note villages baking special breads for these feasts, boosting calorie intake by 20%. Some rituals were practical. A 1290 entry describes a frost blessing where priests sprinkled ash on fields, which modern soil analysis shows added nutrients for spring crops. Superstitions played a role, too. Peasants hung holly over doors to ward off frost spirits, but the prickly leaves also deterred rodents, per modern studies. These rituals united communities, with everyone from kids to elders pitching in. A 1288 record tells of a village singing hymns during a blizzard, raising spirits and body heat in the church. Faith, food, and fire, it was a medieval trifecta for beating winter. What winter tradition would you bring back, bonfire feasts or holy wards? Or do you have a modern ritual to survive a cold? Share in the comments, and let's keep the medieval vibes alive. So, what do you think? Could you hack a medieval winter with these tricks, or are you sticking to your heated blanket? Let me know in the comments, and if this blew your mind, give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Want more wild history hacks? Subscribe and ring the bell, we're diving into more crazy survival stories next week. Stay warm, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.